Peter Trueman was born on Christmas Day, 1934. He grew up in the Maritimes and started his career working as a print reporter, eventually covering the assassination of U.S. President John F. Kennedy for the Montreal Star.
I was more cynical after that. I've never been able to look at any politician with much joy ever since.
In 1970, he moved into television and became executive producer of CBC's flagship newscast, The National, during the FLQ crisis. 4 years later, he became the original anchor when Global Television first signed on in 1974. It would be a place he would call home for 14 years.
I'm Peter Trueman, and this has been year one for Global News.
He was best known for his authoritative, common-sense approach to news, and his commentaries at the end of each newscast were something viewers looked forward to.
That's not news, but that too is reality.
Peter led a newsroom where reporters had the freedom to shine and experiment, including a young man who would later establish and anchor Global National.
Has been a day of chaos in New York with numerous...
Peter, for a lot of us, was our definition of integrity. The standards that he kept for himself as a journalist, he imbued the newsroom with, and really anybody that worked with him. So, you know, for the rest of my career, his notion of integrity was my guidance.
But talk is cheap for them and for me. We have jobs.
When I started at Global News years ago, Peter Trueman was a god. And to this day, when you mention his name in the halls or at the station, people understand that Peter Trueman stood for editorial standards of excellence and respect for the audience and the people that we were interviewing and the team that was putting the news together.
For me, Peter Trueman was an idol, a mentor, and then later in life, a friend who showed me that there was life outside of journalism.
His critics might argue that the year was one of scandal in high places.
I think that the success for Peter and me was that we both respected each other so much, and that we had different experiences, so that was good too, because we could each bring to the other the experiences. I mean, I was a reader rather than a thinker, and Peter was a thinker rather than a reader. So we both had to learn from the other.
And to this day, his legacy lives on.
We get down to writing the show, which is
following in his father's footsteps. Mark Trueman is the senior producer for Global Toronto.
Make sure he does it in a certain order.
Also joining the team is Mark's son, Devin, control room operator. A family legacy on top of the many journalists Peter Trueman inspired along the way.
I understand that my leaving Global doesn't mean that I've finally learned to keep my mouth shut.
After retiring from journalism in 1988, Peter and his wife Eleanor decided to live a more peaceful life on Amherst Island, located in Lake Ontario near Kingston. Yet still wanting to do something more, he co-founded radio station CJAI-FM in 2006, serving Amherst Island.
I've known Peter Trueman since I was 29 years old. He was instrumental in saving a store, an old general store, and turning it into a museum and an art store. What a guy. And he also was the great DJ on the little radio station, Amherst Island Public Radio.
Mr. Trueman.
He received the Order of Canada in October of 2002, and throughout his 5-decade career earned not only the respect from his peers, but also his viewing audience. He was passionate about Canadian history, committed to the environment, and became the host and managing editor of Discovery Channel's award-winning series, Great Canadian Parks.
The very people who have worked so hard to preserve them.
Yet his greatest accomplishment was his beautiful family. Peter and his beloved Eleanor were married in 1956, went on to have 3 children, 11 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren.
I will always be grateful to this company for allowing me to speak my mind in the 14 years I worked for it.
Peter Trueman witnessed a lot of history in the making. His lifelong commitment to discovering and reporting the truth will always be remembered, not only within the Global News family, but also with his longtime viewers.
You've been a great bunch of viewers, friends even, and I'll miss you.